Some characters in cartoons are so inspiring that people even use them as their profile pictures on social media. Most cartoons have an antagonist who is purposely made to be a jerk, but that happens because they were created specifically not to be the most likable character in the show. Now, you know a show is going down the wrong path when the character we're supposed to like is extremely obnoxious. However, there are also occasions where a character is likable even while being a jerk, like Gumball. The Amazing World of Gumball. I need to start by saying that no, Gumball is not a bad character, and in a way, it's even easy to root for him. But we definitely need to talk about his selfishness. In the episode The Saint, Gumball proves to be extremely mean when he simply decides to ruin Alan's life for being too beloved. And when I say ruin, I mean really ruin. First, Gumball makes the entire school hate Alan because of a post Gumball himself made on Alan's account. Then, he breaks up Alan and Carmen's relationship using fake evidence to make it look like Alan cheated on her. But the worst thing comes next. After all of that, he still goes on to sell Alan's parents. Yes, literally sells them to a children's party. That's the joke. And even though Alan gets everything back by the end of the episode, that doesn't erase what Gumball did, okay? That was just one episode. But what about the time Gumball killed the same character 50 times just to figure out why he was immortal in the episode The Recipe? I think one final example of Gumball's jerk behavior comes from the episode The Check, where Gumball and Darwin argue over who would get 1 penny less if they split 50,000 between the three of them. And while the argument is pretty silly, it's worth highlighting what Gumball says. He claims it couldn't be him, because in his words, I deserve to be treated more equally than the others. I'd say that sentence defines Gumball most of the time. He's a selfish character who only thinks about himself. And yet, it's important to point out that this is a trait of the character, and it works very well. Unlike our next name on the list, Star is the forces of evil. Don't get me wrong, I love Star, but only the version of her from the earlier seasons. After watching the 4th season, my opinion is that Star is a terrible person, and I don't even know where to begin. Honestly, I could make an entire video just about this, and I will eventually here on this channel. But for now, let's just talk about her relationships with other characters. Tom is one of the few characters in Star completely ruined by the writing collapse in the show's 4th season. I won't deny that he started off as kind of a jerk, even doing some questionable things before the show began, but he always tried to be better and win Star back, even taking anger management classes. But that effort never seemed to be acknowledged by Star. In fact, she seemed to hold some kind of grudge. In one episode, Star is with Tom's family. When a photo album is shown on screen, there's a picture of the day Tom gave Star her horns. And when she sees the photo, she says, "Oh, that was the day I got my horns." Tom corrects her, "You mean our second date, right?" It was like she wanted to erase their past together. But that's nothing compared to the episode that still makes me angry. The main turning point for me, where Star truly becomes unbearable, starts in the episode Booth Buddies. That's the one where Marco and Star get stuck in a photo booth. Marco eventually concludes that in order for them to get out of the booth, they need to kiss. And I'm not even going to get into how ridiculous that plot is. The real problem here is that Star doesn't tell her boyfriend about the kiss. Marco is the one who ends up having to tell him. And on top of that, when Tom confronts Star about it, she gets mad. Star kisses another guy while she's in a relationship and then gets mad at him for knowing and not telling her he knew. Let's not forget that Star and Tom break up in episode 17 of season 4, and just 2 episodes later. Episode 19, she's already dating Marco. I have a lot to say about our dear Princess of Muni, because unlike most characters on this list, I can't sympathize with her. At some point during the show, she just becomes a straight up unlikable character. But even though I deeply dislike Star, I'll save that rant for a future video. For now, let's move on to the next character, Mabel from Gravity Falls. Out of everyone on this list, Mabel is probably the one I like the most. By the end of the series, she's actually an amazing character, especially during the credits with that beautiful message about how Mabel had learned to love herself. But throughout most of the series, she does a lot of jerkish things, from smaller stuff like constantly teasing Dipper for being a nerd, to literally starting the apocalypse in Gravity Falls because of her selfishness. In the episode Dipper and Mabel Vs the Future, Dipper is about to be offered a position as Ford's apprentice to help investigate the mysteries of Gravity Falls. Instead of feeling proud of her brother, Mabel whines and complains about how terrible it would be because she would be away from him. She should have been happy for him. That's just basic support. And if that was the only thing, maybe she'd still have time to realize how wrong that mindset was. But shortly after, Mabel ends up falling for Bill's trick, breaks Ford's machine, and sets the stage for Weird Mageddon to happen. And let's not forget the first Weird Mageddon episode, where she refuses to leave her fantasy world and help Dipper out of fear of reality. We also have the episode where Waddles the pig first appears. In that episode, Dipper is trying to have a nice day with Wendy, who, for those who don't know, was his crush. Meanwhile, Mabel wins Waddles at the fair. Dipper accidentally hits Wendy in the face while trying to win her a stuffed animal, and Robbie shows up at that moment and swoops Wendy away from Dipper. Later in the episode, episode, they end up getting the time travel belt and try to go back to fix things. But no matter what Dipper does, Wendy always ends up hurt and Robbie always ends up with her. After a few attempts, Dipper finally wins the prize for Wendy. But in order to do that, he needs Mabel's help. She fails to get Waddles in time and the pig goes to someone else. Mabel then throws a huge tantrum, staying mad for weeks and even banging her head on a post repeatedly. Dipper, being the good brother he is, sacrifices his chance with Wendy to go back in time and get Waddles from a bowl. Dipper wasn't really gonna end up with Wendy. He's 12 and she's 15, but that's not the point. Maybe Mabel was right in wanting Waddles, but the way she acted was incredibly concerning, putting herself above her brother and treating her wants as more important than his. She even says, "That pig is my soul," to which Dipper responds that she says that about everything she gets mildly interested in each week. My point is, she's dramatic about everything. Even if she had a point in wanting Waddles, she handled it in the most self-centered, top way possible, like it was the end of the world. Well, but now it's time to get into the characters I really consider to be jerks on this list. Mordecai, regular show. As dumb as the previous character's actions may be, they all have one thing in common: they're just teenagers. And we know teenagers can be a mess. Even if some things seem obviously wrong to me, like Star, for example, we have to understand that they still have a lot of growing up to do. Now, imagine taking all those frustrating behaviors the Flower was, multiplying them, and putting them into an adult. A full-grown, bearded man. That's basically what we're dealing with here. Mordecai, sure, there are a few likable moments, like when he goes after the excellent hat for the egg. That's pretty cool. But our bird is, from a certain point of view, a very questionable human being, to say the least. Let's start with the episode where Mordecai keeps dumping work on Ribby so he can go out with CJ. Basically, his girlfriend invites him out, and Rigby agrees to cover for him multiple times. At that point, Rigby was already exhausted and didn't want to do it anymore. But when Benson asks Mordecai to do some work because Rigby couldn't handle the same load as the bird, instead of defending his best friend and saying something like, "No, he's cool, he works hard, he can do it," Mordecai just joins in with the teasing and mocks him. Besides that episode, there are a few other times throughout the series where it seems like he takes some sadistic pleasure in hitting poor Ribby. For example, in the Punchies episode. I don't know about you, but to me it definitely seems like he's enjoying punching his friend a little too much. Yeah, Mordecai is kind of a violent guy. The peak of people's hatred for Mordecai comes in the episode where Rigby finally finishes high school and gets his long-dreamed diploma, while everyone else is happy for him. After all, it was a big personal achievement. Our lovely blue bird doesn't treat Rigby very well during the episode, and in the end, Mordecai breaks down and admits he wasn't happy at all. Why? Because Rigby's lack of a diploma was what made Mordecai feel, in quotes, superior to him. That's such a ridiculous, selfish mindset. Hearing those words from Mordecai, it really feels like he only enjoyed being Rigby's friend because it made him feel better about himself. At least someone was below him. Looking at past episodes, it always seemed like Mordecai liked to feel superior to Rigby. It's a pretty jerk move, you know? And now that his friend is finally growing and improving as a person, Mordecai gets all mad about it. Patrick and SpongeBob is a show that honestly makes me sad to watch these days. I remember watching reruns of the older episodes as a kid and thinking, wow, this show is so good, but something happened. The show went through a massive style change over the years, and one of the characters who suffered the most from it was Patrick. Suddenly, he stopped being a dumb character with good intentions and became a total jerk. One episode that really shows this, Ink Lemonade. In short, Patrick decides to open a lemonade stand, and aside from the fact that the lemonade he's selling is absolutely disgusting, he starts torturing Squidward because for some reason, Squidward's ink becomes a hit. SpongeBob scared Squidward, causing him to squirt some ink from his nose, and that ended up being a success among the lemonade buyers. The entire episode after that is just Patrick torturing Squidward for money, scaring him repeatedly in a way that's way more disturbing than usual just to make a profit. I won't even talk about the Patrick Star Show, which recently came out. It's just an absurd cartoon full of annoying humor, loud noises, and random stuff. It's just sad how Patrick, a character who used to have feelings and a personality, the show became a parody of himself, oversimplified into one trading being dumb. Like, yes, Patrick was always dumb, okay, but he had his personality. He tried to help SpongeBob. In the show's pilot episode, Patrick encourages SpongeBob to go get his job. In the movie, Patrick goes on a massive adventure with SpongeBob to save Mr. Krabs. But in the recent episodes, he's just this annoying character who pretends to be dumb. Patrick became a parody of himself, but here it is. I managed to finish it in the end. Why not give it a like, subscribe, and drop a comment below? I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and I could really use your help. You have no idea how much every like, comment, and subscription means to me. Anyway, thanks for sticking around.